If you're a CEO, what's on your mind? At PwC, we asked, and more than 4,000 global business leaders told us. Leaders are less confident about revenue growth than they were last year. They see rising threats from macroeconomic volatility, cyber risk, technology disruption, and geopolitical conflict. AI is at the top of the agenda, and 12% of CEOs say their company has seen both cost and revenue benefits from AI. But more than half haven't yet seen any of those gains. But there is plenty of positive news. The CEOs who continue to invest boldly are pulling ahead. More than 40% say their organizations have entered new sectors over the past 5 years. On average, these moves account for around 20% of their revenue. Half of CEOs say innovation is central to their strategy. Those using proven innovation practices, such as supporting higher-risk initiatives and creating innovation hubs, are more profitable and growing faster. Finally, growth is built on trust. Our survey shows that in the past year, 2/3 of CEOs face stakeholder concerns around issues like data and privacy and responsible AI. Companies facing the fewest trust concerns delivered higher returns. Trust, innovation, and reinvention are the foundations of growth in the age of AI. So, our final question to CEOs is this. As you lead through change and disruption, how will you shape what comes next?
Good evening and welcome to you all. Thank you for joining us here in Davos. If you're joining us on the live stream, thank you to you too. We're here to launch PwC's 29th Global CEO Survey, and it's taken in responses from almost 4,500 CEOs from 95 countries. So that's a huge survey, really good data there. I'm Nisha Pillay, and it's my great pleasure to be your moderator today. So what are we going to do? We're going to take a look at the headline findings, and then we're going to try and unpack them to see what they might mean for decision makers at a time like this with such rapid technological change and so much uncertainty. So I'm pleased to say that we're joined now by Mohamed Kande, PwC's Global Chairman. Mohamed, please come onto the stage.
Thank you, Nisha.
Make yourself comfortable.
I will.
So let's start with what the CEOs themselves are saying. Here's a flavor. Our transformation is underway, but it's not going fast enough. Interesting. There's a lot of excitement around AI, shared by all of us in the room, but the payoff isn't here yet. How about this? Long-term survival isn't guaranteed if we continue on our current path. Or growth opportunities aren't where they used to be, so we're having to branch out. And finally, doing nothing feels like the bigger risk right now. And here's some of the data behind those sentiments, also pretty striking. Only 30% of CEOs are feeling confident about revenue growth this year. Only 30%. 56%, over half, say they have not seen cost or revenue benefits from AI. And 66% of CEOs, 2/3, say they've experienced stakeholder trust issues in the past year. So, Mohamed, when you look at what the CEOs are saying, and when you look at what the data is saying, and put it all together, what's the real story here?
You know, Nisha, the real story is that CEOs today are feeling the pressure. The pressure of understanding the current environment, the opportunities, but also the sense of urgency that we now have. Because the more you are in a very uncertain environment, the more there is a sense of urgency to understand, okay, what comes next? And today, unfortunately, for many CEOs, it is very difficult to predict what the future is going to be. And so they're feeling the pressure. And how do we deal with that pressure today? of all the uncertainty, the technology disruption that you just mentioned, but also to think about how do they reshape their business for the long term.
Reshape it.
Reshape it because they know that they will have to do things differently. So the question that the CEOs are asking themselves, which is showing up in the results, is, am I moving fast enough? Am I being bold enough? And am I building my business today to be viable for the future, for the next 5 years, all in the midst of maximum uncertainty? So it is a very interesting time today. But the questions are real, and the answers are difficult.
Indeed, and CEOs are under so much pressure, caught up in the moment and the decision-making, perhaps they're missing the big picture. So you've identified these deep shifts that you think that leaders should be across and understand. The survey is also providing strong support for that. The first shift is what you call the reconfiguration of global economic power, with supply chains shifting, new investment corridors emerging. And interestingly, CEOs are signaling growing interest in India and in the Middle East. How do you see this playing out?
Well, you know, this reconfiguration is playing real time. You mentioned supply chains, reconfiguration of economic power, reconfiguration of partnership that CEOs actually have to embrace. And the shifts are happening not only real time, but with the level of intensity, but also playing it differently depending on whether you find yourself in India, in Asia, or in Europe, or in the US. What we are seeing that the response is first, what are the operating models of the future for CEOs? Because the reconfiguration will happen is to understand which operating models will be the right for the future. The second one is to rethink, where do we build our products? How do we configure our supply chains? Who should we partner with? And also what technology to choose, depending on where they find themselves in the world. So this reconfiguration is real, and again, we are doing all this in a time of maximum uncertainty about what comes next.
So there are big decisions on the horizon, and when you look at where CEOs are placing their bets globally, what's changed recently? Are leaders thinking differently, maybe, about risk and return?
You know, I like my colleague, Marco Amitrano, who is a UK and Middle East senior partner. To answer that question, Marco, what do you think about this one?
So look, I think it's fair to say, Mohamed, the competition for investment capital is a global one. It always has been. And look, the landscape has changed. You know, as you've already articulated, emerging economies are no longer emerging. Actually, that landscape has changed as a result of the megatrends we've been talking about, reading about for decades now. You know, geopolitical fracturing, very real, very current as we come into this week. Technological advancement, getting more rapid. We think AI is huge. We'll hear more about that. Quantum when it comes, arguably an even bigger shift. And then we have social instability, demographic shifts. Some of the Western economies have felt the pinch or more. And climate change, which, you know, some people think have gone away, but it hasn't. It's now underpinning an energy transition conversation. So, you know, the landscape for returns has shifted, and therefore the competition has intensified differently in different places.
How do you think leaders are thinking differently about risk and return today then?
Yeah, look, I mean, when this environment we're in, there's no doubt that chief execs we talk to, many of which have underpinned this survey, are looking for that kind of balance between fewer bigger bets, meaningful bets, and therefore bigger but fewer in number, but balancing that with not betting the house, being able to manage that risk profile. And look, I mean, that's where you do look at the geopolitical landscape, you do look at the interconnectivity of the world. Interestingly, what we see in this survey is the US still the number one destination. So when we ask our CEOs in this survey, which are your top three, the US still predominantly the first choice, with an even bigger lead from 30 to 35%. The UK still holding second place, although that's now shared with Germany and shared with India, that's doubled in its popularity, you know, relatively. We've also seen the Middle Eastern countries, even China, market themselves better in that global competition on that global landscape. So again, illustrating the first comment I made, the attraction of global capital is a global competition that needs marketing and stepping up nation by nation.
Yeah, excellent.
Great, thanks so much, Marco. Actually, the CEO survey results are also backing up what Marco just said. 42% of CEOs say that they've been entering new sectors recently, if you look at, say, the last 4 or 5 years. And those who have are seeing higher margins. They are also more confident about growth. So what do you think is driving that trend, Mohamed?
So actually, 3 things are driving that trend. The first one is growth. Because most of the CEOs know that when they run the companies, they have to look for growth. That's how they unlock additional investment capital, and you name it, right? That's the first point. The second one is technology. Technology has decreased the barriers to entry into many other industries. So now that you have, a lot of companies have access to that technology, technology is a lever that they use to expand into other industries. And the third thing is the convergence of industry. You have a lot of industries today that are converging. What is the healthcare industry? It's a combination of hospital services, medicine, but also technology. So industries are being redefined. So that is why today many of the CEOs that are looking for growth know that for them to continue to grow, they have to expand into other industries. And technology is a lever that they use for that.
Indeed. There's a lot of discussion at the moment about Europe, of course, Europe's place in the world of challenges ahead. But what does the survey say about how CEOs view Europe as a business destination?
You know, the best person to answer this question is actually our PwC's Europe senior partner, Petra, please.
Hey, Nisha, thanks to reply on that questions and give some insights. Yeah, what we see is that Europe is still struggling to adapt to that new geopolitical situation, to the new power competition, I would say, we see in the world. Yeah? At the same time, there is an overcapacity coming from China, and this is threatening European companies' market share globally and domestically. And we're obviously in a new discussion of US tariffs. Yeah? But I wouldn't write off Europe yet. Yeah? There is a lot of positives. Yeah? So the first thing is, and Marco just said it, 7 out of the global top destinations for investments are in Europe. Second, all the international companies, they want to serve the more than 450 million customers in Europe. And taking that one step further, we see, and this is coming from our survey, we see a sign of a new innovation wave building up. What do I mean? Yeah? Close to half of the European CEOs we have surveyed, they shared that they started venturing in new sectors, in new industries, and in new business models. So they want to grab the opportunities we see in the vast investments of AI, of defense, of infrastructure. So this is the destination they are going towards too. And maybe if you then look at European companies, they might not always be the first going for new trends. But once they tackle the opportunity, they do it consistently and with high quality. So this is what we're seeing, and this is why I'm optimistic. It might take a little bit of time, but the train is out of the station.
Okay, Petra, thanks very much. So
we are not writing off Europe at all. Okay?
It sounds like that. Sounds like that. And moving into new sectors, just like other businesses around the world. So let's step back now and look at the second big shift that you've identified, an increasing overlap, or what you call a tightening link between technology on the one hand and geopolitics. We're seeing fragmented digital ecosystems. CEOs are now ranking cyber risk as a top threat. What are the implications for business?
You know, the reality is nowadays, in this current environment, a technology choice is also a geopolitical choice, because of the availability of technology in different parts of the world. And cyber risk is a function of the macro volatility that we're currently experiencing around. So CEOs are now finding out that depending on where they operate in the world, who they work with, and what they sell, they have to make very different technology choices. So what we are inviting CEOs is to understand what's available to them, to understand the implication of the choices that they have to take, especially the geopolitical choices, but most importantly for business is to build the resilience that they need to continue to run the businesses today, but also in the future. But now, unfortunately, with the geopolitical landscape that we are living with, the technology choice, depending on who they work with, is also a geopolitical choice.
Yeah. And that has its own resilience and risk issues in it.
Absolutely.
So we haven't yet mentioned AI. Of course, it's one of the huge shifts, which we're all aware of. It's impossible to go anywhere without AI popping into the conversation, let alone here in Davos. So the CEO survey is actually giving us a bit of a mixed picture of what's happening within businesses. Only 12% of CEOs say that they've seen both cost reductions and revenue benefits as a result of AI implementation. So very few. Over half, 50%, haven't seen either yet, which suggests that most companies are still pretty early in their AI journey, right, Mohamed? So what separates the early movers, from everyone else?
This one, when you think about AI, we are at an inflection point. So first of all, the technology is working. There's no doubt about it. And it is here to stay. There's no such thing as turning back from artificial intelligence. It's like saying that you turn back from the internet. Nobody can do that today. So we know that it is at an inflection point when it comes to adoption and the understanding that AI is now a must for organizations or for companies around the world to adopt. The question is how. We have to move, and we have seen that the companies that have not adopted AI at scale, that are still experimenting, are showing different results from the companies that are using AI to transform their businesses.
So it's not enough to tinker?
Yeah, no more.
Okay, so let's explore that a bit further then. What's holding companies back then from, a full immersion? And what are those leaders who are seeing value doing differently? How is their thought process different?
Now that is a great question. Paul, do you want to take it? This is Paul Riggs, our senior partner for PwC in the US.
Happy to, and it'll expand upon something, Mohamed, that you just said. If I step back and say, what's keeping companies grounded with AI at the moment, it is being stuck in experimentation mode. And I'd argue that you have to layer on with weak AI foundations. The process of continuing to run the litany of use cases distracts focus, it distracts capital investment, and you need scale plays, top-down, directed inside businesses, embedded in workflows, not layered on top. And so what I would surmise from the data is that those that do not recognize either cost synergies and opportunities in the current environment or the revenue opportunity that exists and that shows itself in many cases are those that are still experimenting. In terms of AI foundations, what we certainly encourage clients to build are, one, ensure that you have the technical foundation and layer to enable your business to maximize its potential with AI. Two, put tools and assets and accelerators in the hands of your people and expect your people to experience, to understand, to upskill their own potential. But then three, you have to embed AI, that AI-first ethos, into your workflows. Layering things on top after you've run legacy process, well, that just keeps you in legacy process. It's incrementally additive rather than transformative. So I'd say that in the first instance. You also talked about what are we seeing companies do who are, in fact, driving real value. And those companies are doing what I've just described. One, they've got strong AI foundations, which not only means the technology's in the hands of their people, not only means they've upskilled their people, but it means they've developed responsive risk programs, appropriate controls that govern, monitor, secure, enable trust in AI. And then they are embedding AI in end-to-end workflows. Yes, transforming what they do today as they build tomorrow, which also means that they are committing real resource capacity, dedicated to past capacity to transform underlying businesses and to transform what it is that they do for their clients with measurable key performance indicators and accountability through the organization. So this isn't rocket science, but it is focus yields results. Focus alongside investment, alongside resource capacity, which remains human, delivers results with AI, and it is meaningful. What we didn't talk about are the 30+% of companies who do see meaningful results on the revenue side or on the cost side.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. And Nisha, one thing that I will add, this need for business transformation when using AI, it is the same thing that happened when we moved into digital transformation. When you use technology to move on the internet, with the mobile internet, with enterprise resource planning systems, CRM systems. The technology was not used by itself. We needed to drive the business transformation that went along with the technology around people and processes. So yeah, that movie had played that before.
Yeah, so
We
you
just
have to
do
run your whole
something.
business differently.
That's exactly what it
So
is.
that begs the question, how are you using AI within PwC? You know, what have you learned internally about what works and what doesn't work?
You know, everything that we just said about what we've had our clients, we actually did it to ourselves. First, using artificial intelligence and embedding artificial intelligence into all of our services to become AI first. Training our people. The first thing we did, by the way, was to give access to, when ChatGPT came out, we have more than 300,000 people today using ChatGPT or access to Microsoft Copilot, for example. Why? Because what we needed to do is to make sure that our people did not fear the technology. And you know, people fear what they don't understand. So we had first to make sure that the tools were available to our people.
Yeah, so you have to create AI natives.
You have created, if you want AI native services, you have to create AI native people. But you have to give them access to the technology. That's the first thing that we had to do. The second thing, how do we use AI to run our own businesses? You know, with the people that we have around the world, we happen to be 364,000 people in 139 countries. We have to run our business differently. And we are using AI as a lever for us to be able to do that. And the third thing that I will mention is that we are constantly learning from the technology companies that are always coming up with innovation on the AI front so that we have a very early adopter of some of the new agentic AI services or technologies that are coming out, because we want to be leading from the front on this one.
Okay. Well, I'm going to leave it there on AI because I'm sure you'll get more questions later. And let's move on now to what you believe that CEOs should be doing. Now, the survey is showing both caution and ambition. Confidence is down, yes, but CEOs are still investing in innovation, AI, new sectors, as we've heard. So what guidance are you giving to business leaders about how to navigate through these very difficult, turbulent times?
So let me start with artificial intelligence then. CEOs have to move beyond experimentation. We mentioned it.
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, that is, you know, it's good to have use cases, but that was the last 2 years. We now have to move to the point that we're saying, okay, how do we run businesses differently? And even if they don't have the answer, they have to keep moving. That is the first thing. The second thing, we really advise CEOs to now look at, now that you have that technology available to them, how do you use the technology to start thinking about expanding your business to grow beyond your sector? AI creates a number of opportunities, not only internally to be efficient, but externally to be able to grow the businesses. That's the second advice. And the third one, we are basically telling CEO that you have to make innovation as a core capability, because you have to create the new. But most importantly, you need to have trust in how you deliver, how you run your businesses differently. And trust is a matter of discipline. And that is what we are telling CEOs today. You can
Trust is a matter of discipline.
Yeah, trust is a matter of discipline. It's not a one-off. You have to do it all the time. Innovation is a matter of structure. Trust is a matter of discipline. And we're asking CEOs to do both. And the ones that are able to do that are the ones that we see successful.
Fascinating. I'd never thought of it that way. Now, a very unexpected insight, at least to me, is how CEOs are allocating their time. Nearly half is being spent on short-term issues with a horizon of less than a year. That's pretty surprising, isn't it? What does that tell you about leadership at the moment?
This is a reflection on how fast things are changing. A lot of the CEOs are spending a lot of time in the day-to-day or within the one-year time frame, because there's no such thing even as a one-year time frame. Things are changing more frequently. Therefore, they have to, this is a function of being agile for them and doing reactive to the current environment that they have. And the rest of the time, they have to think about the long term. It's a balancing act, and I will tell you, this is a test of leadership today.
Yeah.
About the ability to think about today with the uncertainty and the speed of change, but also to think about the future.
You've got to have the strategy as well.
You have to do both. You have got to do both.
Shall we have some questions then from our guests here? We've got a mic, a roving mic, so why don't we start from the front and then slowly make our way to the back, if possible. just put your hand up and we'll bring the mic to you. And don't forget to tell us who you are and which organization you represent. Who would like to start? Thank you.
So, thank you. I'm Holger Ahlich from Swiss business publication Handelszeitung. I would like to come back to the US for a moment. If I'm not mistaken, you said that the US is still the #1 destination for new investments, and that the share has even risen, so it's even more attractive. Which, isn't it that a little bit surprising, knowing that the administration behaves like a third world country in state capitalism, telling companies what to do and what not? So this is something that shouldn't raise the attractiveness of a investment destination, or is it too early to see that effect in your survey? Would like to know that. Thank you.
Thanks for your question, Holger. So why is America still so attractive?
So, you have actually some fundamentals that exist out there. We have had a lot of conversations with many of the organizations that are investing in the US today, whether it's private equity, whether it's sovereign funds, for example, or principal investors. And we ask the question, and today, the reason the number is growing is because the fundamentals of the US economy and the company that they're investing in are still very strong. You look at the balance sheet of a lot of the companies in the US, the cash flow statement, do they have access to capital, and the discipline that they use to run their businesses. When you invest in a company, you invest in an opportunity, not only in the country at the macro level. And that's what we're seeing in the US, because today, it's a country that still demonstrates a lot of good fundamentals in the business in the US today. That's what we're seeing today. And that's the reason why they continue to invest.
Let's have another question. At the back over there. Please tell us who you are, sir.
Hello, John Paul Ford Rojas from the Daily Mail in the UK. Can I just ask, on another topic related to the US, what your reflections are on the events of the last few days relating to Greenland, and whether you have made any representations to the US administration, or indeed to the European Union, about how they handle the issue?
So this is about the CEO survey. So let's see if we can tempt Mohamed to make a comment there. But I wouldn't be surprised if he says no comment. Let's see what he says.
Hey, didn't we say that things are changing very quickly? That's what it is. So, yeah.
I don't think he wanted to bite on your question. I'm terribly sorry. Let's have another question then. Here in the front.
Thank you. From CNBC Turkey. I remember last year, it was, I think, the CEO of Salesforce saying that we are the last generation of CEOs managing real people. Are the CEOs ready for what is next?
I am ready. Depends where you find yourself in the world. But I think there are statements that are being made saying that we have to adopt technology very fast. And we are all going to find ourselves where we will have to run businesses in many countries, in many territories, basically, where you have to use people, but you also have to be technology. The two will have to be combined to be able to deliver the value of the future, whether it's on the cost side, but also on the revenue side. So it's a statement to convey the fact that there is no turning back when you think about the adoption of artificial intelligence. Agents, we have a lot of them today, and we will continue to have them, but we also have a lot of people. And we continue to hire a lot of people because we need them to deliver against our strategy for ourselves, but also for our clients. So.
Okay, I think we've got a question right here. Please tell us who you are.
Thank you very much. Jasmin Osman from the German financial daily Handelsblatt. And I would like to know, I think part of your results is also that German companies try to find European alternatives to US technology. I would like to know if this is some movement or interest you see also in other parts of the world, and if you think that the new developments we see geopolitically could increase it and then maybe make the US economy a little bit less attractive for investments. Thank you very much.
No, this is a good question, but I will tell you what we have witnessed. We are not going to profess to know what companies are going to do in the future based on current geopolitical situations or actions that are being taken. I will tell you what we have seen currently. That a lot of the companies, not just in Europe, by the way, there are companies around the world. It could be in the US, it could be companies in Europe, it could be companies in Asia. The function of technology is not where you are based out of, it's where you operate. And depending on where they operate, they will decide what is the best technology that is more appropriate for the environment, the technological environment, the data environment, and the regulatory environment for them to use the technology. That's what we have seen drives the technical decision or technology decisions of companies. We have not seen yet geopolitical actions driving technology decisions, but again, we're not going to predict the future. Nobody can do that, but I can just share what we have seen so far.
Thanks, Mohamed. And I think there's a questioner over there wearing a white shirt and glasses. Please tell us who you are.
Good evening. I'm Rory Reynolds from the National in Abu Dhabi. Do we need to have a long, hard look at how well equipped a lot of traditional CEOs are to manage this digital AI transformation? Because some of them do seem very traditional, and I think maybe some of their employees agree. Thank you.
Would one of you like to take it?
Marco.
Come on up, Marco.
I was the last person to turn away there. But look, CEOs are upskilling. CEOs need to upskill like everybody else. And I think some will make that journey effectively. Some will find it harder. Some may give up. I think, there's never been a more important time for teams leading organizations, not individuals. The CEOs that we see, along with some of those statistics, that are deploying, as Paul described, AI more broadly into the organization, deeper, they've gone past the pilots. Those are CEOs that are listening to everybody around them. And they're backing what their people are telling them, and they're getting those results early. So, again, I think we talk in our organization as the 4 leaders of the global network that we must be learning every day. And I think that is a principle that CEOs, as these changes accelerate, have to adopt themselves.
Yeah. Agility is key. To the point around that, can we run businesses today the way we run them in the past? And that's applied to many CEOs around the world, right? The answer is no. We can't. Things are changing so fast. And it's a different environment, technology-wise and geopolitically wise. And we have to adapt. But the first thing to adapt to a situation, you have to learn from it. That's what Marco just said. And that's what what we see the successful CEOs are doing today. And then to have a plan, but most importantly, not to stop executing. And to have the ability to pivot when we get actually new information. The thing that, though, and we said it earlier, Paul said it, you have to, every CEO today has to run their businesses. They have to transform the business they have today. And they have to think about the future at the same time in an environment that is evolving very, very rapidly. It's a new test.
It's hugely challenging. Yeah, without a doubt. Let's have a question from, I think someone a little further back first. Maybe a blonde lady, I can't quite see you. Or maybe, sorry, it's my eyesight.
Yeah, you could
Please tell us who you are.
I cannot even see back there.
Nele Spandig from German weekly Stern. I wanted, it's a simple question, just is climate change still a topic for CEOs and still a topic in your survey?
Well, if you want to
Indeed it is, and I think Marco mentioned it, didn't you, earlier? Yeah. Petra, please.
So maybe I can go on that one, It's still a topic, And so what we are seeing is also coming from our investor survey, that companies are challenged how to translate technology into, and including technology working for sustainability, for sustainable business. So it's a business topic. It has become a business topic. And so we see it still on the radar. It has become a different notion. You might have seen it also here in Davos, but it's not off. And we see the businesses changing for the future. They are tackling their business and looking at what the business model can be as an USP, taking up sustainability for a sustainable future of the business model in itself. So the topic has become a different thrive, but it's not off. And as we heard earlier, impact risk of sustainability has moved towards energy transition is still there. So you're asking you said a simple question. I think the answer is not so simple for the business leaders. So we see them also taking it on, but having some difficulties with it. Yeah, but it's still there. Yeah.
Thanks, Petra.
Thank you, Petra.
And I think there are quite a few other people. Yes, please. In the middle of there in a cream jacket. Thank you.
I'm from Channel Service. My question is simple, and how inclusive AI can become a new engine of economic growth from the perspective of CEOs? Thank you.
Could you just repeat that question? How inclusive?
How inclusive AI can become a new engine of economic growth?
How inclusive can drive economic growth?
Yeah,
okay, thank you. Oh, looks like Paul is very keen to answer that.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Look at him here.
First of all, I love the question because if you go back to the differentiating power of AI, listen, the first move is often operational efficiency. The opportunity for tomorrow is how do you leverage the value of this transformative technology to connect more intentionally with consumers, to change the front end of the sales platform, to change the value equation, to introduce and take advantage of new vectors of value that create impact for the end customer. And so in terms of AI's power and potential to expand the revenue opportunity, it is real. And the survey suggests that, again, 30-ish%, I can't remember the number off the top of my head, are seeing AI drive revenue opportunity, not just those cost synergies and the efficiencies that are there as well. So it's a real opportunity. Maybe the only other thing I'd touch on, and this comes back to inclusion as the enabling power of AI for a workforce. I mean, listen, I like to think of it as AI really does raise the floor of potential, but it's still the people, it's still the leaders who raise the ceiling. And so, AI being such an accelerant for enabling expertise is certainly exciting for businesses today, but even more so for what's to come in the future.
Yeah.
Great, absolutely. Paul. It's a very nice image. AI raises the floor, but leaders raise the ceiling. But I think we have to. Do you want to say one?
Yeah, I want to say one more thing around AI for inclusion. And depending on where you find yourself in the world, when you think about artificial intelligence today, what does it do? It democratizes access to knowledge. So when you think about inclusion, knowledge inclusion, meaning that other parts of the world can have access to knowledge that are sitting in different geographies. And that is, for us, inclusion for AI is that how can we disseminate knowledge across all of PwC, across all of the countries that we work today, so that we can actually include everybody within that knowledge base. And it's not just us. We see many companies doing the same. So for me, AI is a technology that can be the most inclusive, but inclusion of what? Inclusion to knowledge. Because the more knowledge people have, the more innovative they can be. And honestly, in many economies, you can see new jobs being created, et cetera, et cetera. It is going to be giving a shot to many parts of the world to join that new AI economy. Why? Because they have access to knowledge. Let's not figure that. Let's not forget about the fact that when you have access to knowledge, that is how you create it today, to create the next generation jobs. And a lot of societies also can come out of where they are today and join this AI boom that we're all witnessing today.
And the next innovations.
Oh, yeah.
That was a cool question. One last question I think we have time for, and I think it's going to be this lady in the front over here. Thank you. Briefly, please.
Hi, yes. Hi, Aisha from ET Now in India. And I just had a question. One of your CEO surveys said whether the AI capex will make money. When will it? And is it fair to put a timeline to when it will?
This is a yes or no question, a simple one.
No, it's not.
The answer is no.
It won't make money?
No. The answer is no. Don't put a timeline on it.
Okay.
Because it continues to evolve. Because we're basically, the reason why we're saying that there is investment, when you think about artificial intelligence, and you think about all the money that people are saying is being spent in AI, in what part of AI? In the technology, the large language models and the agents, in the real estate, in the data centers, in the chips, in energy, in industrial equipment. That's the AI ecosystem. We're telling people, do not stop to drive innovation across all of these different layers of the AI ecosystem. The more innovation you have, the more it will be affordable for companies large scale around the world. So we say don't stop. Don't look for short-term goals. Look for short-term benefits or short-term outcomes. But we saw the same movie 25 years ago with the internet, with the mobile internet. Look at where we are today. Many of the companies that are on top of all the financial markets today did not exist 25 years ago when we studied the mobile internet. Let it play out so we can all embrace this new golden age of innovation because of AI. But don't put a timestamp on it, because you don't want people, because of short-term goals, to stop investing into the future. That's why.
So one last final question for you, Mohamed. If you had to leave business leaders with just one message from this year's CEO survey, what would it be?
First, learn about what's happening, and learn fast. We cannot solve problems if we don't understand them. Understanding what's happening geopolitically, what's happening on the technology front. Second, create optionality. Scenario planning is going to be very important. But it is really important not to freeze, but to continue to execute, move beyond experimentation into business transformation. And third, agility. If things change, the ability to move very quickly without compromising on the future. We know it is hard, but it is a new role for leaders around the world. We've got to do this.
Be brave, be bold.
Be brave, be bold, and be agile, and be patient. But it's okay to fail.
Mohamed Kande, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you to all of you for coming here today in Davos. If you'd like to download the full survey, it's full of nuggets. You can go to ceosurvey.pwc. Next year, by the way, we will be celebrating the 30th PwC Global CEO Survey. So please do join us again for that big milestone. For now, though, from me, Nisha Pillay, from Mohamed, from all of us on the PwC team here in Davos, thanks for joining us. Goodbye.
Thank you.